1. So this happened about 10 years ago. Me and my dad live in Texas. At the time he was trying out online dating. He met a girl who lived in Louisiana and decided to go see her one weekend after I got out of school on Friday. It's about a 10-hour drive from our place to hers, so we wouldn't be arriving until 1 or 2 in the morning. So we leave for Louisiana. Every now and again my dad would call the lady to make sure we were on the right track and get more directions. Smartphones weren't in everyone's pocket yet, so we couldn't just Google Maps it. Once we passed the state line, he calls the lady back to let her know and ask for more directions. She tells my dad that we're going to come up to a loop with a small forest of trees in the middle. By loop I mean you get in the loop, and the road just circles with 10 or so exits, and if you don't exit, you just keep circling. Anywho, on one side of the loop there was some NASA building of sorts, and they have a giant model rocket outside of the building. So she told us to drive to the circle and take the first road after the giant rocket. Hard directions to mess up. So me and my dad get on the loop, drive around said loop until we see a giant rocket. Okay, so the next road we need to exit on. We pass the rocket and there is no road. How odd. We figure it must be a little after the rocket. We keep driving and the next road is the one that put us on the loop. Just figuring we fucked up, we drive around again. By the way, the loop takes about 10 minutes to get all the way around. So we go around the second time, and coming up the rocket again, me and my dad are both on the lookout for this elusive road. Once again we pass the rocket and lo and behold, no road. Driving some more and the next road is the one we took to enter the loop. Me and my dad are super confused at this point. We go around for a third time, and this time, after the rocket, we find the road. It is literally immediately after the rocket. There is no way we could have missed it once, let alone twice. We made jokes saying that in order to make the road appear, we have to drive around 3 times before it becomes real. I still cannot explain how this happened. 2. When I was 16, now 24, something really strange happened and I think about it constantly. I don't know if this is a glitch, if I time traveled. Maybe it was a doppelganger. Some helpful advice and answers would be muchly appreciated. The story starts like this. My identical twin sister and I had hacked into a girl in our high school's Facebook for a laugh. Silly idea. The girl was going to get the police involved and my sister got scared and told the principal it was us. We had never done anything bad in school, no detentions or anything, so he kept us in the chill-out room while he sorted everything out. This happened first thing in the morning, so we didn't get to explain to our mates what was happening. We didn't use our mobiles then either. Our mates would always contact our parents to pick us up from somewhere. So no one but us and the principal, teachers involved, knew what was going on. We were in that room all day just playing games and hoping for the best. The bell rings and school is over. The principal tells us everything is fine and the girl doesn't want the police involved anymore. She thought it was a classmate who she was fighting with, but found out it was us and didn't care. We got home, still hadn't told anyone about what had happened at school that day. We walk into the kitchen and our mum was getting off the phone and she saw us and said, "Girls, what's happened? Is everything okay?" Me and my sister just looked at each other like WTF. We asked her how she knew there was something wrong, and apparently, who she just got off the phone with, who is a family friend since we were kids, said that her son John called her saying that she had to call the twins' mom urgently as something bad had happened. Mom asked for more details from Diane, and apparently John explained that the twins had come into his workplace and said that I went up to him and said, "Can you please ring our mom as something bad has happened and we don't have our phones on us?" And then we walked back out of the store. John has known us for our whole life and knows exactly what we look like, and it's not hard as there's 2 of us that look the exact same, so we stand out in a crowd. But how the hell did we tell him that when we were in that damn chill-out room all day and hadn't told anyone what was going on? We were both mind-fucked and didn't say anything. Just straight walked to our rooms. We didn't tell Mom about the whole day until an hour or so later. Me and my sister talk about it every now and then, but we haven't brought it up with Mom since. Think it's time I do, as I'm seeing her this weekend. Hope she remembers that weird event because I can't stop remembering it. So what do you guys think about this? 3. So I should start this off by saying that I have a strong history of sleepwalking, from a young age to this very day. It doesn't happen all the time, mostly when I'm stressed or in a new place. That being said, here goes. About 10 years ago, I was living in a sketchy situation. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other people. It was me, a couple, man and a woman, and 2 other single women. I shared a room with one of the singles and the other 3 had the other room. Like I said, sketchy. I was working part-time, going to school, and partying a lot with my roommates. I was broke, like, all the time. It got to the point that I was having trouble keeping gas in my car to get back and forth to work, school, and home. One point was particularly bad. I asked my mom to help with gas money, and she agreed to help me out. $20 later, my tank was full, and I would make it to my next payday. So I go about my day as usual. I go to school, then work, and then home. My ritual was to walk in the apartment, put my keys in the bowl on the counter, and then finish my night as usual. This night was no different. So I wake up the next day, get dressed, and get in my car to go to school, and what do I see? My car only had a quarter tank of gas. Obviously I was pissed. Please note that my car already had a locking gas cap, and a gas door that popped open from inside the car, and it had not been tampered with. At this point I started paying attention to my gas usage. During the day it was fine, but then something was happening at night and my gas was disappearing. I had to ask my mom for money again, and she did, but she told me that gas doesn't just disappear. That I should make sure there are no gas leaks and make sure none of my roommates were using my car without my permission. I did as she said and made sure no leaks were happening, and then questioned my roommates, who of course denied anything to do with the situation. This went on for maybe a month of putting gas in my car, only to have it be mostly gone the next day, before I finally decided I was being lied to by my roommates, and started sleeping with my keys in my pillowcase, so they were inaccessible to others. So one day I go about things as normal, again wake up, no gas, get gas, go to school, work, and then home. I have a normal night. I go to sleep normally with my keys tucked in my pillowcase, and have what I assume to be a normal night's rest. The only difference is that when I woke up the next morning, I was in the driver's seat of my car in my driveway. The car was running, the radio was on, and so was my gaslight. I was dumbfounded. Was this me the whole time? And if so, why was this the first time I had woken up in the driver's seat? The real question was I actually sleep driving? Or was I letting my car idle for who knows how many hours each night? Where was I going? Did I ever get stopped? Did I talk to anyone, pick anyone up? Also, to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe that idling my car all night would suck up almost a full tank of gas. To that end, that would mean that I was actually driving around, completely unaware, and putting my life and the lives of whoever else might be out during that time of night in real danger. I have heard of people on sleep meds doing such things, but I wasn't on any sleep aids. I honestly have no recollection of driving or even leaving the house at night, and since then, I have always taken precautions against such things. I started putting my keys in a jar in the freezer, and that stopped the gas issue immediately. The other sleepwalking issues I have had since that situation is waking up on the stairs inside of my apartment 2 years ago, and some sleep-talking here and there. Nothing else of this caliber. Has this happened to anyone else? I think something extraterrestrial may have been happening to me. Or maybe it was just a glitch in the Matrix. Thoughts? 4. This event happened to me in 2017, along with another similar event that I will post separately. I need to give boring details, since without a picture it's hard to describe. My apartment faces the back of the building, and I look down onto a parking lot. Beyond the parking lot is a green belt, which includes a small stream and pond that is about a quarter-mile long but narrow. They say strange things happen near water, so I'm including that. I was leaving my apartment and looked out the window and saw a woman I recognize, walking across the parking lot to her SUV. She was going to leave the parking lot. Her SUV was parked nose inwards towards the wall. Her spot was along the back wall, directly in front of a narrow gateway, designed to restrict larger, heavier vehicles from going further into areas not designed for heavier weight. When she arrived, she had obviously just driven straight in, and directly into the first open spot in front of her. As an aside, it's easy to get into the spots directly ahead of the narrow gateway, but it's difficult to get back out, because of the tight turn needed to do a 180. The rest of the parking lot is quite large, and I shake my head at the people who refuse to drive in further to an easier spot. I gathered my things, locked my door, and headed down the hall towards the elevators at the midpoint of the building. There is a large wall of windows in front of the elevators looking down on the same parking lot, Greenbelt and Pond. After I pressed the elevator call button, I turned around and saw the woman's SUV now slowly backing up out of the spot, making a hard turn out of her spot, and stop now that she was parallel to the front row of cars, and continue forward. Wheels cranked to aim toward the narrow gateway that had been directly behind her, that led to the exit path around the building. A bit of a tight maneuver, but she was doing it. Doing it slowly, but that's understandable. My last view of her was as she entered the narrow gateway area. It was something to watch as I waited. I turned, since my elevator came. I went down to the lobby, 5 floors, very quick trip. The doors to the elevator opened towards the back entrance, which looks out to the same parking lot and pond area. The back entrance is a large glass wall with 2 glass doors in the middle. As I stepped out of the elevator, I could see directly ahead of me the woman's SUV is still in its parking spot. Rear of the SUV facing me. I stopped in shock. How did it get back in that spot so fast? It would take her more time than a quick elevator ride to undo the turns she had driven, and in reverse, and go back into it nose in. She slowly backed up, stopped, and then continued forward through the narrow gateway, and turned out of view. That was an exact repeat of what I had just seen 5 floors above. What the heck? I know the woman's SUV. There were no others parked in the row when I looked from the windows. The lot had many open spaces on the other side of the narrow gateway, so if she needed to stop or check something or whatever, she had easy enough access to open spots moving forward. Since her spot was right behind her now, she would have reversed completely back into the spot if she wanted to check something, not turn completely back around and go nose in again. To stop and retrace her steps in reverse into the spot would have taken longer than my elevator ride, and knowing her, she would not choose to do that complicated a maneuver. She would have driven forward and directly into the other open spot in front of her, on the other side of the narrow gateway. But she merrily continued out of the lot, unaware that she just had a time glitch. This happened over a year ago, and I'm still shocked at seeing it happen twice. Once from up on the 5th floor, and again down on the 1st floor. It's like that part of time glitched and happened again. It's not the first time that happened. 5. This story took place about 5 years ago, and every single word of it is 100% true. To this day, my family and I still can't explain what happened. My mum, dad, and 2 sisters went on a family trip across Europe. I stayed at home with my husband and 12-month-old baby. It's 3 a.m., and my phone's ringing. It's my dad. I'm thinking, that's weird. Dad's usually well aware of what time it is here when he calls. Maybe he doesn't realize, so I ignore it. My phone rings again. I'm now thinking it's somewhat urgent and I should answer, but it rings out before I can pick it up. I then noticed I have a dozen missed calls from both Mum and Dad and my sisters. I also have a heap of messages. So now I'm wide awake and thinking the absolute worst. I open up the text messages and they're all along the lines of, "Everything will be okay. We are going to get the next flight home to be with you. Stay strong, we love you." I'm thinking, what the fuck are they on about? My phone rings again and I answer straight away. What the hell is going on, Dad? What do all those text messages mean? Now it takes a lot to make my dad concerned. On the phone he's really concerned and trying to keep his shit together. Through gritted teeth and his voice shaking he says, "I've just been on the phone to you for an hour." What do you mean, what's going on? I'm completely dumbfounded. I went to bed at 10 p.m. and have been fast asleep until now. The last time I spoke with my parents was 3 days ago. How could I have possibly been on the phone with my dad for the last hour? I tell him he must be confused. I've been asleep and definitely didn't make any phone calls. "Don't play games with me," my dad almost shouts. "I've been on the phone with you for the last hour because you just found out you're pregnant and your husband has left you." "What?" At this point, my husband has woken up to all the commotion and is asking what's going on. "Dad, what are you talking about? He's right here asleep next to me. He hasn't walked out on me and I'm definitely not pregnant." Dad's angry now. He's telling me to stop bullshitting him, that this isn't funny. He's demanding I tell the truth, asking if both me and my son are okay and do I know where my husband has gone. At this point I'm thinking I've been sleep-talking. I've somehow called my dad in my sleep and told him this ridiculous story. My husband doesn't believe it, saying he would have woken up to me crying on the phone to my dad if I had in fact done that in my sleep. I tell my dad to hang on a minute while I check if I made any calls to him. I look through my phone log. Apart from multiple missed calls, I haven't made any calls to my dad or my family for that matter. The last call I received was 3 days ago. I checked my husband's phone, in case I somehow clambered over him and used his phone to make the ridiculous phone call. Nope, nothing. "Dad, I've just checked my phone. I haven't made any calls to you." I asked Dad if my caller ID had shown up when I called him. He says he can't remember, so he checks. A minute or so later he says, "It says unknown. I haven't received any calls from your phone number." My dad is suspicious now, thinking who the hell did he just speak to? My bewilderment turns to anger. Has someone pranked my dad? Who would make up such a story and upset my whole family? My dad denies it, saying he knows my voice, and he says it was definitely me. Even my sister got on the phone and said she was there the whole time, talking with me while I was in hysterics on the phone. She said that I told them my husband got angry and walked out on me when I told him I was pregnant. I didn't know where he went and he wasn't answering my calls. I said I was scared to be home by myself with my son, so I went to stay with a friend. My sister said she could hear my friend in the background, but I wouldn't tell them which friend I was staying with when they asked. Dad asked me why I didn't go to his house as I still have a key, and I said I didn't want to because of their family friend who was staying there, which was a true piece of information. My mum and dad had a family friend staying with them for a few months, and was looking after their house while they were traveling. My sister said eventually I calmed down, and said I had to go as I didn't want to keep my friend awake any longer. I said I have to go to work the next day and need to cancel my dentist appointment, another true piece of information. I was in fact called in to work the following day, and I told my husband the night before I'll need to cancel my dentist appointment. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and at the same time, my family couldn't believe I was telling them otherwise. I had to take a photo of me and my husband to prove to them everything was fine and that none of that happened. We stayed on the phone with each other until 6 a.m., me convincing them that they definitely do not have to get on the next flight home. No one could make sense of what happened. My dad and family still didn't 100% believe me until they got home from Europe and saw me in the flesh. We speak about it every now and again. I always ask my dad and sister to tell me again and again exactly what I said to them over the phone. I find it fascinating and terrifying at the same time. My dad doesn't like talking about it. He just shakes his head and says, "I don't know what to believe." And I don't blame him either. What he and my family heard was real. They really were on the phone to me, and were all devastated at what I was telling them. Ready to jump on the next flight home and telling me to stay strong. Imagine then being told a few minutes later by the real me that I had no idea what they were talking about. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Glitch in the Matrix Stories, number 82. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, that's better. A week late, but here it is. Plus, it is most of the work in this one was already done because I did it last week, hoping I'd actually get it finished, but well, it didn't. But it did save me time this week. So when I woke up today, I saw it was rather nice and sunny outside, which we haven't had for a little bit. I was able to, I thought, okay, I'll start work late. So I took the bike out because I hadn't been out for a few days, and I went, did a little bit of shopping and enjoyed the sun. And even with that, I'm still making pretty good time today. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.